10Y News. Malacañang says it is not impossible for Metro Manila to be placed under Modified General Community Quarantine or MGCQ.
Interagency task force still weighing factors to decide on opening up other sectors in areas under general community quarantine, according to the Health Department, noting that we cannot be forever on lockdown.
Alam niyo po, hindi naman tayo pwedeng mabuhay na tuloy-tuloy na we are all in lockdown. No? Sinasabi na rin naman po yan ng eksperto.
Malacañang believes the House leadership row has been settled.
Tingin ko tapos na naman po yung controversy, no? At talagang paulit-ulit na pakiusap ni Presidente, kinakailangan mapasa ang ating COVID-19 budget on time.
A video creator and traveler from Poland calls on President Rodrigo Duterte not to ban Facebook in the Philippines.
If President Duterte bans Facebook, we can expect more and more governments deciding what's on our phones, just like it's in China or North Korea.
The New Zealand 2020 general election happens from October 3 to October 17, and Labour remains in a position to govern alone, a research poll shows.
The FBI trains Australia's federal police to catch foreign spies. Meanwhile, 1,000 jobs to be available in telecom industry by the end of year in Singapore. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Thursday, October 1, 2020. I am Harleen Delgado.
Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the country and in other parts of the world. I'm Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
Malacañang says it is not impossible for Metro Manila to be placed under Modified General Community Quarantine or MGCQ. This following reports that the Metro Manila Council is already preparing for a possible further easing of quarantine restrictions by November. However, according to presidential spokesperson Harry Roque, this greatly depends on the residents.
It is not an impossibility dahil talaga naman po napababa natin. Pero nasa kababayan pa rin natin yan sa Metro Manila. Alam na po natin ang dapat gawin. Mask, hugas, iwas, gaya ng sinasabi ng ating Presidente doon sa ating Ingat Buhay para sa Kabuhayan campaign.
The Interagency Task Force is still looking into further opening up sectors in parts of the country under general community quarantine. Joining us tonight is our health correspondent, Aiko Miguel, to tell us why live. Yes, Aiko, good evening.
Yes, William, good evening. The World Health Organization reminds countries that there is no forever lockdown amid the health crisis experienced globally. WHO reiterates that targeted lockdowns should be done only in areas with high incidence of COVID-19 transmission. According to the country's Department of Health, it is possible to further open up other sectors in areas under general community quarantine, but currently the Interagency Task Force is still weighing various factors to decide on the matter. What is important, according to the DOH, is the behavior change of Filipinos. Here's what Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergel said about lockdown.
Alam niyo po, hindi naman tayo pwedeng mabuhay na tuloy-tuloy na we are all in lockdown. No? Sinasabi na rin naman po yan ng eksperto. There would come a time na talagang somehow slow opening of different sectors has to be done para magtuloy-tuloy ang buhay natin. Ang sinasabi nga po ng eksperto, we need to learn to live with the virus. So, kailangan lang yung behavior change sa bawat isa ay mangyari.
Meanwhile, in an online news article written by WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus last September 29, He says there's hope amid the pandemic, but countries have to focus on 4 essential steps to take control of the pandemic. First, prevent amplifying events, because COVID-19 spreads very efficiently among clusters of people. Second, reduce deaths by protecting vulnerable groups, including older people, those with underlying conditions, and essential workers. Third, individuals must play their part by taking the measures we know work to protect themselves and others. Stay at least 1 meter away from others. Clean your hands regularly. Practice respiratory etiquette and wear a mask. And avoid the 3 C's, that closed spaces, crowded places, and close contact settings. And fourth, governments must take tailored actions to find, isolate, test, and care for cases, and trace and quarantine contacts. Widespread stay-at-home orders can be avoided if countries take temporary and geographically targeted intervention. According to WHO, once these are implemented, although there is still no cure yet for COVID-19, further COVID-19 transmission will be prevented. William?
Yes, Aiko, is there a target date when the IATF will announce its decision on further opening up sectors of the economy?
William, there's no set date yet when the Interagency Task Force will issue or announce their decision regarding the opening further of sectors, because they will still discuss with other sectors about this matter. William.
Thank you so much. Aiko Miguel reporting live.
2021 budget of the Department of the Interior and Local Government, Senators quizzed the top officials of the agency on leading the contact tracing efforts of the government. Senator Nancy Binay asked DILG Secretary the preparedness on the contact tracing and coordination between healthcare facilities and local government units now that the country is reopening the economy. According to the senator, based on her experience in their town, there is a lack of information dissemination, especially on the barangay level.
Today we are opening Boracay for tourists. Pag may nag-positive dyan na isa, dalawa, are we prepared to contact trace everybody? Is the system in place for us to contact trace?
Secretary Anyo assured that there are enough safeguards, including the use of QR codes and the mandatory filling up of health declaration forms.
Then ensuring also that the hotels, accommodations are also capacitated on how to ensure that all information are gathered before any tourists will check in. It's really a very laborious task, Mr. Chair, but somehow we are able to cope and manage.
According to the DILG, there are currently over 55,000 contact tracing applicants, while more than 10,000 are officially hired. Each contact tracer will receive a compensation of 18,714 pesos. However, Anya noted that they have yet to receive the 5 billion peso allocation for the hiring of additional 50,000 contact tracers under the Bayanihan to Recover as One Act. In a press release dated September 14, the DILG said there are currently 97,400 contact tracers nationwide, and the additional 50,000 will allow the agency to meet its target of 150,000 contact tracers across the country. In relation to this, the DILG secretary also expressed support to give standard benefits to barangay health workers who are also tapped as contact tracers. The agency earlier endorsed the House Bill 3985, or the Barangay Health and Wellness Reform Act of 2019.
Kasi pa iba-iba yung stipend na binibigay ng LGU, depende kung gusto ng mayor at may kakayahan. Kasi lahat ng contact tracing, lahat ng COVID efforts natin, bumabagsak din sa BHW sa ibaba eh.
We would like to push through for that law po masigurado na ang barangay health workers natin ay nabibigyan ng tamang compensation at incentive.
The provincial government of Batanes confirms its second COVID-19 case. The said case is a locally stranded individual who arrived on September 22 via the Philippine Air Force. The patient is currently asymptomatic, in stable condition, and under strict observation in a Sinakan isolation unit in Sabtang. The provincial government adds intensive contact tracing is underway, facilitated by the COVID-19 Task Group Health Cluster. Batanes lost its COVID-19 free status on Monday, September 28, after it confirmed its first case.
Meanwhile, the country's Department of Health says that 2,415 new cases were reported today, raising the total confirmed cases of coronavirus infection in the Philippines to 314,079. The National Capital Region logged the most additional cases, just a bit less than 1,000 today. Cavite came next with 238. The total active COVID-19 cases further increased today to 54,294. Of those active cases, 86.6% are in mild condition, while 9% are asymptomatic. We have lost 59 more patients. But through our fervent prayers, medical interventions, and sacrifices of our medical frontliners, 771 more people have won their battle against the invisible enemy. That brings the total recoveries nationwide to 254,223. Thanks be to God.
Let's now take a closer look at the updated count of coronavirus cases around the world. The COVID-19 pandemic has now reached a total of almost 34 million confirmed cases in 188 countries, regions, and sovereignties. That's after more than 219,000 new cases were reported across various countries from yesterday. The fast-spreading disease has claimed more than 1 million lives globally, with less than 5,000 new death cases in the last 24 hours, while over 23.6 million patients across the globe have recovered from the new coronavirus infection, thanks be to God. Congressman Alan J. Velasco calls on the members of the House of Representatives to finish the deliberation of the proposed national budget before the date of change of House leadership. Ray Pelayo explains why.
Marinduque Representative Alan J. Velasco was dismayed that the deliberation of the proposed 2021 national budget yesterday was suspended and reset to Friday. This was after House Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano's offer of resignation that was eventually scrapped by majority of lawmakers. Velasco asked his colleagues to finish the deliberation before October 14, the date of change of House leadership, adding that this is the commitment that they made before the President. Velasco promised to address the concern of his colleagues, but Cayetano mentioned in his speech that he cannot assure Velasco will be the next Speaker of the House. In July last year, the two lawmakers agreed on a term sharing, 15 months for Cayetano and 21 months for Velasco.
Mr. President, I will resign on October 14. Let me clarify, Mr. President, he needs to get the votes. So tumingin lang siya. Gumaganon si Presidente. Sabi ko, Mr. President, let me explain. Under the Constitution, you need a majority of all members to be elected Speaker. So I can step aside, but I cannot guarantee he will be elected.
Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Meanwhile, Malacañang believes the House leadership row has been settled. Our palace correspondent Rosalie Cos tells us why.
After the incidents in the lower house yesterday, Malacañang said lawmakers seem to have settled the issue on House speakership. Now, the Duterte administration hopes the lawmakers could focus on passing the proposed national budget for 2021.
Tingin ko tapos na naman po yung controversy, no? At talagang paulit-ulit na pakiusap ni Presidente, kinakailangan mapasa ang ating COVID-19 budget on time.
Meanwhile, presidential spokesperson Roque revealed that President Rodrigo Duterte met with House Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano and CBAC Party List Representative Eddie Villanueva in Malacañang last night. However, the palace official denied the meeting had something to do with what happened at the House plenary yesterday when Speaker Cayetano offered to resign but was rejected by majority of the representatives.
Po ay inarrange 2 weeks ago pa by Brother Eddie, and it really is a pray-over.
Meanwhile, it seems like Cayetano will stay as the Speaker of the House even after October 14. Contrary to the term-sharing deal with Marinduque Representative Lord Alan Velasco. However, this issue, if there will be changes, depends on the members of House of Congress, and the President respects this.
But for now, with what happened yesterday, clearly Speaker Cayetano offered to resign, rejected, he continues to be Speaker.
Rosa Licoz, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Department of Justice is finalizing the implementing rules and regulations of Republic Act 11479 or the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020. The Secretary of Justice believes petitions will be filed against the IRR. Dante Amento tells us why.
We're trying as much as we can sa pagdadraft ng IRR na mabigyan ng clarity yung sinasabing ambiguity in the law. But we can only do so much. Hindi kami po pwedeng mag-legislate because that is not our duty. No, we cannot legislate. We can only draft the implementing rules and regulations.
Justice Secretary Minardo Guevara says they will release the IRR of the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020 this month, particularly before the October 16 deadline. This IRR will be used by the law enforcers and the armed forces of the Philippines for the full implementation of the law. But Secretary Guevara expects that petitions will be filed against the IRR just like the anti-terrorism law itself. At present, more than 30 petitions have been filed at the Supreme Court that aim to stop the implementation of the law over alleged violations of the constitutional rights, such as the freedom of speech and peaceful assembly, and among others. Guevara admits that among the hurdles in drafting the IRR are the wide definition of terrorism and arresting a suspected terrorist without judicial or warrant of arrest from the court.
Unang-una na dyan yung tungkol sa definition mismo ng terrorism. Isang critical, isang crucial area yan, no? At saka yung designation na tinatawag, yung pag-identify kung sino ang mga terrorist groups. Isa sa pinaka-mainit na issue, Daniel, ay yung pag-arrest at pag-detain ng isang suspected terrorist without a judicial warrant. So, in all the petitions, I think ay china-challenge yan. No?
But the Secretary assures that the law is created for the sake of Filipinos and not to violate human rights.
Marami ang pumupuna dahil nag-aalala sila na baka ang mga political at civil rights ng taong bayan ay matatapak-tapakan lamang pag ang itong batas na ito ay sa katuparan. No? Gusto ko lang i-assure ang taong bayan na ang batas na ito ay para sa kanilang kaligtasan at hindi para supilin ang kanilang mga karapatan.
Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Meanwhile, a video creator and traveler from Poland calls on President Rodrigo Duterte not to ban Facebook in the Philippines. Here's Rosalie Cos to explain why.
With the estimated 109 million population of the Philippines, approximately 67% are Facebook users. Based on the report of Statista.com, in 2019, there were almost 74 million Facebook users in the Philippines, and the statistics database has forecast that by 2025, that number will increase to around 88.1 million users. But that is if President Rodrigo Duterte will not make his threat against Facebook true after the social media giant took down pages that support the government's advocacy against communist rebels. But what are the possible effects of banning Facebook in the Philippines? According to Egon Hare of Project Nightfall, a video creator and world traveler from Poland, banning Facebook in the Philippines will create a domino effect in which other countries might follow. If this happens, governments can fully control the applications used by citizens in their mobile phones.
If President Duterte bans Facebook, we can expect more and more governments deciding what's on our phones, just like it's in China or North Korea.
According to Hare, unlike in the United States where President Donald Trump threatened a ban against the popular Chinese video sharing app TikTok, and India, which banned 188 Chinese mobile apps because of national security concerns, President Duterte's warning against Facebook is because of personal and political reasons. Hare appeals to President Duterte to consider, before making any decision, especially amid the pandemic, that people need helpful information, entertainment, and platform to connect with their loved ones and friends.
Dear President, please don't do this. Please don't start a global domino effect. Banning apps because of national security is justified, but for something that can simply be discussed, taking joy away from millions of people might be a little too much.
Aside from the Philippines, other countries also have issues with Facebook over data practice, privacy complaints, and contents such as Australia and nations in Europe. According to Malacañang, President Duterte's warning is not about shutting down the tech giant in the Philippines, but the chief executive just wanted to talk with Facebook about its policies, censoring pages that support the government. Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Malacañang reiterates that the funds for the Manila Bay rehabilitation project can no longer be realigned. This is the response of the palace to proposals to divert the funds for more important concerns of the country, such as the response to the COVID-19 pandemic. According to presidential spokesperson Harry Roque, this is because the project has already been started.
Nasimulan na po yan eh. So kinakailangan tapusin na po yan. No? Ang mga nare-realign ay yung mga hindi pa po nagsisimulang mga proyekto. Yung budget po kasi dyan, hindi lang siya budget actually for the beach nourishment. No? It's actually for the entire program of government in rehabilitating Manila Bay.
In other news, some commuters complain about the no-beep card, no-ride policy on the EDSA busway. Joanne Nano tells us why.
The Department of Transportation has started the implementation of the no-beep card, no-ride policy on the EDSA busway. Now, passengers are required to use beep cards to pay for their fare. In EDSA Monumento, beep cards are sold at 180 pesos. That's 80 pesos for the beep card itself and 100 pesos for load or credit. Beep cards should have a minimum load of 70 pesos, which covers the fare for the entire stretch of the EDSA busway. Passengers should tap their cards before getting off the bus, so exact fare for the passenger's entire destination will be deducted. Although there are passengers who are in favor of the policy, others find it burdensome, especially those with a limited budget and cannot afford to buy and load their beep cards.
Wala na po ko talagang pera kahit ano po gawin sa akin ngayon. Wala nga po ako ng hina eh. Kasi inutang ko lang po to. Tapos kailangan pa po ng beep card.
Dati yung bus may mga konduktor pa po yan. Kaya yung pera ko saktuhan lang. Eh ngayon 180 na yung beep card. Eh po 40 pesos lang yung pera ko. Paano makakaluwas papunta dun sa trabaho ko? Hindi na makapasok, maglalakad na lang ako. Saktuhan lang talaga yung pera ko po.
The UNTV news team assisted Joel and JR so they could avail of beep cards. According to the Transportation Department, shifting to a cashless fare system on public transportation has been a long overdue plan of the government. The Transport Department reiterates this is for the safety and welfare of the passenger against possible COVID-19 transmission.
Ito kasi parang kino-consider natin na birth pains. Lahat naman kasi ng mga technological advancements or initiatives, no, technological initiatives. Syempre sa una, hindi naman may iwasan na merong mga kaunting problema o may mga concerns or issues na mai-raise, no. Pero yung mga issues na yan, yung mga concerns na yan, yan yung mga kinokolekta namin at pinag-uusapan namin with our internal team. Kasi long overdue na itong implementation ng cashless transactions. As much as we can, we really need to implement changes na makakatulong para malimit natin yung human-to-human intervention.
The DOTR has asked AF Payments Incorporated, the company managing beep cards, if they could give the cards for free so passengers will have to pay for the load only. If the company approves the proposal, the DOTR will also appeal to refund the 80 pesos that passenger paid for. AF Payments, for its part, says it will try to lower the price of beep cards but admits that it would be very hard to refund commuters.
We will be talking to the supplier. Baka pwede pa nilang ibaba yung presyo. And whatever savings we can get there, ipapasa kaagad sa pasahero. Susubukan na mapababa.
AF Payments says it will also look into the use of single journey tickets on the EDSA busway route. Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Now, here's a glimpse of what's the weather like in parts of the country. The trough of a low-pressure area is affecting parts of the country. State Weather Bureau Pagasa says as of 3 p.m. today, the LPA was located at 965 kilometers east of Basco, Batanes. The trough of this LPA will bring cloudy skies with scattered rain showers and thunderstorms over Batanes, Isabela, and Cagayan, including Babuyan Group of Islands. Meanwhile, Metro Manila and the rest of the country will experience partly cloudy to cloudy skies with isolated rain showers due to the southwest monsoon or localized thunderstorms. Possible flash floods or landslides may occur during severe thunderstorms. No tropical cyclone advisory is issued.
The updated Uniform Good Conduct Time Allowance Manual is now being implemented by Bucor and BJMP. Dante Amento reports.
The Department of Justice and the Interior Department have worked together on the updated Uniform Good Conduct Time Allowance or GCTA operating manual. The manual is now used by the Bureau of Corrections and the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology.
Yung uniform manual na ginawa namin together with the DILG, tapos na yan. Naantala lang yan, Daniel, kasi merong mga complicated legal issues na kailangan namin i-address. Pero awa ng Diyos ay tapos namin yan. At yan ay ini-implementa na ng Bucor.
The GCTA, IRR, and the Uniform Manual had undergone review after the controversy of possible liberty of rape, slay, and murder convict, former Calauan, Laguna Mayor Antonio Sanchez, and other persons deprived of liberty convicted of heinous crimes due to good conduct time allowance credits. With this, Justice Secretary Minardo Guevara stresses that heinous crimes convicts will not benefit for the GCTA credits under the new IRR of the law.
Pinakamahalaga dyan, sino ba yung masasabi na na-convict ng heinous crime? Ano ba yung tinatawag na heinous crimes? Kasi kung wala kang guide kung ano yung heinous crimes, hindi mo malalaman kung sino yung dapat na mabigyan ng GCTA, kung sino yung hindi dapat mabigyan. Kasi etchepuera nga hindi nga kasama ang mga convicted of heinous crimes from the benefit ng good conduct time allowance.
The GCTA is applied to certain prisoners who show good conduct while inside jail or correction facilities to allow them to have liberty earlier than their original prison sentence. The DOJ and the DILG signed the revised GCTA or Republic Act 10592 IRR last September 16. Dante Amento, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Authorities will further investigate the PMA shooting incident in which an airman opened fire in Fort del Pilar, Baguio City. The suspect in the shooting incident has died. Lea Ilagan reports why.
The Philippine Military Academy and the Philippine National Police confirm that Airman Second Class Christopher Lim, the suspect in the shooting incident in Fort del Pilar on September 29, died yesterday afternoon. In a statement, the PMA says he shot himself after he opened fire that tragic day. Major Tindog said Lim had undergone surgery but did not survive. Baguio City Police Chief Colonel Alan Reyco says that Lim sustained a gunshot wound on his face.
Unfortunately, yung suspect ay pumanaw na din yesterday, kahapon po. Although, yun nga, suspect ay dun gusto sana natin, hindi na malagdagan yung casualty or fatality dito sa nangyari. But, yun na nga po. So, yung namatay na agad na victim, at ito nga pong suspect na kahapon, and yung isa pong natitira pang victim na isa pang serviceman ay still fighting for his life na critical condition pa rin po.
But Colonel Ko explains they will investigate if Lim shot himself or one of the victims shot him back.
Walang mismong harap-harapan na nakakita ng pangyayari, so still part of the ongoing investigation. Pero initially nga nagsabi na parang nung may mas masanay nagpakamatay, pero lumalabas naman sa ating investigation na yun nga, nakalaban yung isang victim and he was able to scaffold with the suspect yung pagkabarilin po niya.
He adds they haven't talked with the survivor, Army Staff Sergeant Vivencio Raton, because he is still fighting for his life in Baguio General Hospital. Last Tuesday, suspect Lim went to the barracks of Raton and Air Force Staff Sergeant Jufri Torqueza and shot the two using an M16 rifle. In the said incident, Torqueza was declared dead on the spot, while Raton got wounded. Authorities are now investigating the possible motive of the crime, aside from the suspect's mental health problem. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Food and Drug Administration advises the public to be careful in storing rubbing alcohol and hand sanitizers. Vincent Arboleda will tell us why.
Rubbing alcohol and other disinfectants are considered priority products in the list of grocery items as these substances provide protection against viruses. But these items may also pose a threat if not stored properly, as they may cause fire. According to FDA Director General Eric Domingo, rubbing alcohol and other disinfectants and hygiene products may be stored in a proper place.
Gusto natin sa temperature na mababa, siya hindi pwede sa mainit, wala sa direct na araw. At siyempre gusto natin sa mga lugar na maaliwalas, hindi yung mga confined. Dahil pag ganito, may possibility na kung siya ay ma-ignite o masindihan, pag bilang masunog, maaaring sumabog.
Alcohol rubbing sanitizing gels must also be placed away from fire or not in places with high temperature. Some common household items that are flammable are alcohol, hand sanitizers, aerosols like hairspray, antiperspirant sprays and disinfectants, fabric softener, nail polish remover, cooking oil, and flour. According to Yusek Domingo, they're also making sure that these products are labeled appropriately to warn consumers.
Meron tayong mga labeling requirements na nakalagay at in fact, alcohol, nakalagay dyan may warning na flammable o maaaring masunog. At of course, maaaring sumabog ang ganitong produkto.
Yusek Domingo says it is important for the public to take note of the warnings on product labels to prevent any accident. Vincent Arboleda, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Boracay Island began opening to tourists today, but airline companies provided only a limited number of flights. Here's why from Asher Cadapan Jr.
The three major domestic airline companies in the country have resumed their operations between Manila and Boracay Island today. This as Boracay opens to local tourists and to those who wish to visit the island coming from general community quarantine and modified GCQ areas. But after 6 months of flight suspension, the airlines provided limited flights because of the low number of tourists. Philippine Airlines says in a statement it supports the Department of Tourism's aim to reopen Boracay Island and other tourist destinations across the country to revive livelihoods, especially those related to domestic tourism. The Philippine Airlines, Cebu Pacific Airlines, and AirAsia open at least one round-trip flight per day thrice a week for tourists to Boracay Island. Although PAL has confirmed that they have canceled the Katiklan flight today to resume on Sunday, October 4. While Cebu Pacific said they only had a small number of passengers who went to Boracay on its reopening day, but expects to increase in the subsequent flights as soon as tourists feel more comfortable in traveling.
This morning, the flight had about 10% of the seats occupied. The loads kasi are building pa at the moment. So we hope in the next few weeks, in the coming months, as more people are inspired to travel as well and are assured that everything's safe and everything's all set for them, then it will encourage them to go out and travel now.
DOT Secretary Puyat also confirmed that only 7 tourists from Manila arrived in Boracay today, but emphasizes the need for a safe and gradual reopening of tourism industry amid the new normal. To ensure safer trips, airlines require passengers to provide necessary documents required by the Department of Tourism prior to traveling. The required documents include confirmation of booking from DOT accredited hotel, air tickets, and negative RT-PCR test result for COVID-19 within 2 to 3 days before the travel date. These documents should be submitted online, and once approved, the Aklan provincial government will provide each visitor a unique code for monitoring purposes. The DOT also emphasizes the need for tourists to undergo self-quarantine while waiting for the RT-PCR test result until the day of their travel to Boracay.
Siyempre nagpapaalala rin na pagka-swab sa'yo, mag-quarantine ko muna, huwag ka naman paikot-ikot kasi di ba negative ka lang for that specific time. Pero ang maganda dito, pwede ngang galing sa NCR at saka no age restrictions.
The airline companies advise their passengers to regularly check the updated travel restrictions and regulations of the government for their proper guidance. Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And for the news abroad, here's Maria Latosa reporting live from Perth, Australia.
William, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, the National Governors Association chairman, along with Vice Chair and Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, call on the U.S. Congress to prioritize state and local aid. According to Cuomo, the pandemic is a national problem affecting all states, and it demands a bipartisan and national solution. They hope for a relief package that will support the needs of Americans, including healthcare workers, firefighters, police officers, and teachers. The two governors say they appreciate the House of Representatives for putting forth a new proposed relief package. They also urge the Senate and the White House to meet them at the negotiating table. The FBI trains Australia's federal police to catch foreign spies. Joining us tonight is one of our fellow correspondents here in Australia, Marvi Delphine, to tell us why live. Yes, Marvi.
Marielle, the United States Principal Intelligence Agency and Security Service Federal Bureau of Investigation, or FBI, has been training officers of the Australian Federal Police, or AFP, on how to catch foreign spies. This comes as an AFP specialist unit set up to counter foreign interference and espionage becomes due for expansion. AFP Chief Commissioner Reece Kershaw revealed he asked for help last year from FBI Director Chris Wray on how the AFP could respond to foreign interference in Australian institutions. Chief Commissioner Kershaw said that the FBI prepared detailed training materials for its Australian counterpart to help investigate crimes under foreign interference laws passed in June 2018. The key insights provided by FBI has helped ramp up prosecutions of U.S. citizens and foreign agents working covertly for Beijing, China. Currently, the AFP has 65 investigators in its foreign interference team, which works closely with the Australian Security Intelligence Organization, or ASIO, and that will grow over time, according to Mr. Kershaw. The FBI and AFP do not disclose lists of countries that are big offenders in foreign interference, but it is believed that Chinese nationals are a major target of the AFP-ASIO Foreign Interference Task Force. So far, we have seen AFP and ASIO execute warrants on the homes of 4 Chinese journalists here, and also bringing back home 2 Aussie journalists from China, with 1 more Aussie anchor currently detained. Chief Commissioner Kershaw says that the AFP needs more Mandarin speakers, as the agency currently does not have enough to deal with the growing foreign interference threat here in Australia. AFP hopes to reverse this complex situation in a new recruitment drive, calling language graduates and Australian Chinese community members to help narrow the broad language gaps. Marielle?
Marvy, it is evident that the Australian Federal Police relies on diversity in its operations to keep Australia safe from security threats. Can you talk more about this?
Yes, Marielle, as AFP Chief Commissioner Kershaw put it, we've got to be diverse as the Australian community, but currently we're not. Australia's security agencies have long struggled to recruit sufficient numbers of Mandarin speakers of non-Chinese descent that could be trusted to do classified work. This language barrier makes it harder to crack foreign interference cases and track down offenders. It is understood that AFP is looking to also employ Arabic speakers to work on counter-terrorism cases as part of a wider effort to ensure the agency taps into the skills of diaspora communities. Marielle?
All right, thank you, Marvy, for that report live from Australia. Australia's manufacturing industry is due to receive $1.5 billion support from the Australian federal government. Prime Minister Scott Morrison highlighted the role of manufacturing industries in the country's economic recovery. Joining us tonight is Early Briones, reporting live from Australia. Yes, Early.
Marielle, Prime Minister Scott Morrison announced earlier today a $1.5 billion Australian dollar investment that will go to the manufacturing industry. $107 million will be invested in a new supply chain resilience initiative to support Australian manufacturers investing in capabilities to address areas where weakness is seen. While 1.3 billion Australian dollars will be co-invested by the Australian government with businesses willing to focus on these 6 priorities: resource technology, critical minerals, food and beverages, medical products, recycling and clean energy, defense, and then space.
The centerpiece, though, of the strategy is a $1.3 billion modern manufacturing initiative. It will provide a new investment vehicle geared to overcoming barriers to scale. We've got to get the scale. The MMI will leverage co-investment with states and territories, industry and research institutions across 3 streams of activity.
The investment fund will be spread over 4 years and is planned to start in the first half of the next year, 2021. According to Prime Minister Morrison, said type of investment and strategies will safeguard more options for the country to avoid vulnerability to critical necessities. He also emphasized that the main objective is not to overcome each and every source of vulnerability based on domestic production alone, and instead highlighted the role of manufacturing industries in the country's economic recovery.
It's a plan for all of Australia and for all Australians. Our efforts to grow Australia's manufacturing sector begin by creating a stable and competitive business environment through our JobMaker plan. But it does not end there. Our modern manufacturing strategy will open a new chapter based on building scale in areas of competitive strength, in driving collaboration and better aligning resources across governments.
Manufacturing employs some 860,000 Australians, and prior to the pandemic generated more than $100 billion in value for the economy each year and over $1 billion in exports. Marielle?
Earl, can you please tell us what is the reaction of the Australians to this news of more funding to be fueled into the manufacturing sectors?
Yes, Marielle. Since the manufacturing industry here in Australia has fallen significantly down to 5.5% of its contribution to the country's GDP, a lot of people are speculating if the country can still go back to its level 20 years ago, where manufacturing sector was the biggest employer in the country. But on the other hand, not everyone is quite happy, like Labour Opposition Industry spokesman Brendan O'Connor. He believes that Morrison government can do more support for the manufacturing industry after the federal government reportedly cut nearly 2 billion Australian dollars from the Research and Development Tax incentive, which is deemed crucial in advancing manufacturing capabilities.
Thank you, Early, reporting live from Sydney, New South Wales. The New Zealand elections will be held from October 3 to October 17, 2020 at 9 p.m. to 7 p.m. Labour remains in a position to govern alone. Paul Gatchalian will tell us why live from New Zealand. Yes, Paul.
Mariel, based on recent NewsHub Read research poll, Labour polling is at 50.1%, National at 29.6%, and the rest of the other parties rank behind, namely ACT Party, Greens, New Conservative Party, and NZ First. New Zealand uses a mixed member proportional voting system where you vote for a party vote, which determines how many seats in parliament a party will occupy, and an electorate vote, which determines who will represent your district. With Labour being on the front seat, here are some of the key achievements Labour has made since governing New Zealand in October 2017. For COVID, introduced one of the strictest border controls in the world to help keep COVID-19 at bay, established a $500 million COVID health response fund for primary care, public health, intensive care, hospital health equipment, mental support, telehealth, and helpline. For the economy, provided interest-free loans of up to $100,000 to help more than 50,000 businesses stay afloat in this pandemic. Announced the $12 billion New Zealand Upgrade Program, investing on roads, rails, hospitals, and schools. Provided support to hard-hit sectors of the country, namely tourism, screen production, aviation, arts, culture and heritage, sports, and recreation. For housing, created a $350 million Residential Development Response Fund to support the construction sector through COVID-19. Launched the Progressive Home Ownership Scheme, supporting more New Zealanders into home ownership. And for businesses, increased the minimum wage to $18.90 per hour from April 1, 2020, and established a $300 million venture capital fund to foster innovation and startups. Back to you, Mariel.
Thank you, Paul Gatchalian, reporting live from Auckland, New Zealand. Singapore plans to train telecom professionals to help in nationwide 5G rollout, and Roy Checa will join us tonight to tell us why, live from Singapore. Yes, Roy.
Marielle, Singapore has a new initiative to generate around 1,000 telecom job opportunities by the end of this year. This is to cater to its nationwide rollout of the new 5th generation mobile network, or 5G. The Minister for Communications and Information, S. Iswaran, announced last Tuesday, September 29. A third of the job positions will be available as new roles, while the rest are to be filled by existing professionals in the telecom industry to be retrained. Singapore hopes to equip its workforce with the right expertise to secure new job opportunities as demand grows in tech areas such as 5G. Boasting surfing speeds 20 times faster than that of the 4th generation networks and the ability to connect 1,000 times as many devices. The industry hopes they could use 5G to support mission-critical applications such as driverless cars and remote surgical procedures, requiring constant connection without lag. In addition to the 1,000 job positions, Singapore plans to train 4,000 more professionals over the course of 3 years. Mariel?
Roy, when will 5G be available for public retail use?
Mariel, the telecom industry hopes to be able to offer retail 5G services to end users by 2025, with service providers such as M1, Singtel, and StarHub offering the network. Mariel?
Thank you, Roy Checa, reporting live from Singapore. In other news, Australia's Bureau of Meteorology declared on Tuesday that La Nina has formed and moved into an active event in the Pacific Ocean. Therefore, recent changes in weather patterns and ocean temperatures over the Pacific will likely to persist until at least January 2021. La Nina is a counterpart of El Nino, a southern oscillation, and is associated with sea surfaces being colder than average in the central and eastern tropical Pacific Ocean. An above average amount of spring rainfall is expected to occur particularly across eastern, central, and northern regions of Australia, and cooler days with increased tropical cyclones across the northern part of the country. Dr. Andrew Watkins, Bureau of Meteorology Manager of Climate Operations, explained that during La Nina, the warmer ocean water near Australia and cooler water off South Australia tends to favor rainfall and cloudiness. Dr. Watkins emphasized the importance of early preparation and encouraged those who are in areas prone to flooding to keep an eye of any warnings for heavy rainfalls in the coming months. He also added that the fire risk and drought this bushfire season would be milder than the previous years due to La Nina. He said that there will always be some bushfires, but he is hoping this year, with these conditions in place, those widespread long-campaign fires like last year would not be seen. He also added the extremity of heat Australia has experienced during recent dry summers would be less likely to occur. However, southern Australia could experience a longer duration of heat waves during La Nina events because weather systems tend to be moving slower. And those are the reasons behind the news here in Australia and in other parts of the globe. Back to you, William.
Thank you, Mariela Toza, reporting live from Perth, Australia.
And those are the reasons behind the news, October 1, 2020. I am Jorlene Delgado.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.